I'm going with C.J. Allen, the inside backer from Georgia. I think that Joe. I actually talked about him, and if you remember this, very early last offseason, because we were talking about their spring game, and I said I don't know who this C.J. Allen kid is, but that dude is a freaking animal. Okay, maybe it was their spring game. Maybe I don't completely remember. Maybe it was a scrimmage or practice. I can't necessarily remember. Dude, he's the reason that Dumas Johnson goes bye-bye. Right? And so if you run him out, what are you supposed to be? Now, I remember vividly the game that he had against Ole Miss. I think he had like 9 tackles, was his career high.
Yep.
I look at the last game versus Florida State, how good he was. Thought he had a really bad game versus Bama. Okay, thought he missed a couple of tackles, but everybody was missing tackles in that game. But I went back and looked at our good friend Brooks Austin's film breakdown of him. He might be the most violent inside linebacker, not only in the conference, he might be the most violent linebacker in the country. I think instinctively he reminds me of a lot of Devin White from the running game. I do think he's got to get better in coverage. But if you're going to put him in the box, which is obviously where he's going to be, Joe, he's going to be downhill, and good luck trying to run the football with him there. I do think that he's a problem, and I got to be real with you. There are 5 seniors or classroom seniors. Some of them are redshirted juniors. 5 seniors on this Georgia defensive line. I think that they get a lot more penetration this year to let their backers flow. And I do think that they do some different combo things along their defensive line to let a guy like C.J. Allen absolutely rake. Final thing with C.J. Allen that I will say that I'm worried about. I think there were times that he was okay in coverage. I thought there were times he was completely out of position in coverage, which you're going to have to expect from a young player. The problem is sometimes, Joe, when you're a linebacker and you're struggling in coverage early, you don't normally fix it, right? Like there's normally something wrong there. But I just think because Georgia is going to be that team that I think is going to be the number 1 seed coming out of all of this, an expanded playoff, it's going to be led by what C.J. Allen, that front 7, is doing at Georgia. But I'm going to split this one, okay? I need you to listen to me. I do think that there's going to be somebody along that offense at Georgia, regardless of who it is going to absolutely break out. Joe, have you looked at their wide receiver room by chance?
I have very briefly. They brought in some guys, man.
Joe, can I give you a hot take here?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're not top 3 in the country at wide receiver.
I like, no one talked about them adding Colby Young, man. I really like Colby Young.
And Landon Humphreys. By the way, they got Dom Lovett in the last year's transfer portal. They have Rod Thomas, and then the ultimate secret weapon, Dylan Bell.
Yeah, you love Dylan Bell.
Oh, God, do I?
Look, to just round out the thought here on C.J. Allen, we have talked a ton on this show about how Georgia has ridiculous depth because of how effectively they've recruited and then kept most of those guys there. C.J. Allen was good enough when Jamon Dumas Johnson got hurt that he was the next man up amongst all the other guys.
It. And you know what's interesting? When he came in, Joe, we're talking about him going up against a Lane Kiffin offense. It's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to be thrown into.
Yeah, I said this with Dylan Thieneman, reckless abandonment for a freshman, 1,000,000 miles an hour. I would rather watch you go 100 miles an hour and make mistakes like you did against Bama as a young player than to watch you hesitate and go slow. I love guys that play with this intensity, this mentality. And we know that Georgia has developed linebackers at a very high clip. I like this pick. This is a really, really strong pick. This is somebody who could end up being an all-conference player at the end of the season with no questions asked.